How's everybody doing? This episode is fun. It's AI security essentials. It's what to do with the technology, how to protect it, how to save it. We go in some interesting directions. It's a fun one. If you like what you see, please hit like, please subscribe, please share it out to folks that you think could benefit from taking a look. We'll see you at the other end of the episode. Welcome, friends, listeners, country people, to another scintillating edition of the Mettle podcast. I am, as always, one half of the dynamic duo, Omar Sangarima, with my co-host, Alyson and Omar.
Hey, Omar, how are you today? As we
Good.
get to do this.
Doing well. I'm excited. Any day that we get to sit down and chat, it's very rewarding, very refreshing. I'm getting good feedback about some of previous episodes, imparting some knowledge. So always happy to be a part of any type of process of that nature. However, first things first, setting the stage at the beginning of every episode. Take it away, Alyson.
Yeah, though I am a lawyer and Omar is a cybersecurity consultant and expert, we are not your lawyer or consultant for purposes of this podcast. But that being said, we're going to be here to share our wisdom, experience, and knowledge with you in the best way that we can so that you can ask the questions you need to ask of your counsel, of your consultant, or anyone else that you're working with. So hopefully you guys will continue to take information away that you find useful from our discussion and witty banter. We do enjoy doing what we're doing. As you can tell, we are definitely not AI scripted as we do this.
Goodness, who would script this way? That would
I
be
don't know. Anyone who throws the Muppets in midstream when talking about death and trust is
that's
definitely not AI scripted, I would say. But
taking chances, but that's what we do here on
that
Cyber
is what
Metal.
we
But
do.
it landed, I have to say. I will humbly say I think it landed. So hooray.
Yeah, I think, it resonated. It helped people really kind of understand and start having the conversations. I think that's been the best part of the feedback is that people have said, thank you for that episode about dealing with death and having that tough conversation and resilience planning and business succession planning, right? And planning for your family. And starting those tough conversations is never easy, but it gets easier once you start. It doesn't get
Yeah.
easier if you haven't tried it. At least try and work through it and work through your discomfort. And I think that goes with any of the tough conversations. And I know next week we're going to have another tough conversation that we're going to go through in a future episode. We're gonna intermix those. So if there are tough conversations you out in the audience would love to have us try to tackle, we are more than happy to tiptoe through them with you and try to make it a bit more comfortable so that there can be meaningful dialogue so that you can come to some sort of resolution and hopefully find some clarity on something that otherwise in the shadows. I'm going to use that as a segue for today. How's that sound?
Go right ahead. I think you
All
set it up
right.
brilliantly.
I was going to say, as I threw in there AI and shadow, one of the things, a big topic that Omar and I would love to talk about today is AI security for you and your business to really understand what these tools are, what they aren't, and the things you should be looking for as you navigate and decide which one do I want to use and why and for what purpose. Shadow AI is, I'll let Omar explain it in the best way possible. I think you probably could do a good job having dealt with it in your business.
I mean, it's absolutely terrifying. It's a derivative of the phrase shadow IT. And much like shadow IT is essentially utilization of technology, in this case, artificial intelligence, any of those derivatives, any of those models on top of models, it's turtles all the way down, but it's the use of the technology in a way that's straight up unsanctioned, that's not monitored, that's not protected by the organization or the enterprise that you're using it inside of. And quick fact, that's not to say that it's just Big Brother watching your usage. It really boils down to wanting to monitor in order to protect. I know I'm biased because I'm on the team that does that, but trust me when I tell you that most of your security teams are not interested in, if you happen to be buying stuff on Amazon, 'tis that season right now. I can't stress enough to you how truly little we care. We just want to make sure that whilst you're doing that, there's not something else popping up on your endpoint that's, with you looking in the Amazon direction, just happens to be starting to download your files or take over a said endpoint. So that's where Shadow AI comes in. unmonitored, unknown, unregistered, not standardized, not safe. There's no guardrails around it, but ultimately boils down to we can't protect what we don't know about, what we can't see.
I think that's a really great point. It's the stuff you don't know, you don't expect. And yet, for a lot of consumers and even businesses, they use things like Google, Gmail, right? The Google Suite, the work suite for their businesses. And right now, this is all popping up everywhere in the news for people to really understand and know. And that's why this is kind of near and dear to our heart right now
Hmm.
is that you are automatically opted in to training their AI. So you could be just using your regular Gmail and going about your business and not realizing that Google is now scanning, reading, accessing your emails and using it to train their AI model. So talk about shadow and something you're not using it nefarious, but you're sitting at work. You're like, oh, I need to check my personal Gmail. And you get on there on your work computer. And now you're checking your emails and interacting with that program. And maybe you email something from your personal account that you should or should not email, whatever the case might be. And because you have not opted out of being part of that training model, you are now part of it. And you have now put that business information in there and or that business at risk, right? Depending on
Hmm.
is it scanning your system and do you have it up with other things going on? LinkedIn is another one of those options programs, excuse me, where
Hmm.
you are opted in by default, meaning you need to go into the settings and say, please don't use my posts to train your AI. And it's stuff you don't even think about,
Hmm.
right? You're posting about you're looking for a job. So imagine if it's watching and analyzing everything you're doing and then using that to further train its own models. So the shadow AI doesn't mean necessarily you're evil or bad employee and you're trying to like
Exactly.
sneak things in
Sure.
necessarily,
Yep.
but it's so embedded in everything we touch, whether it's Copilot for Microsoft, Gemini, right? You can name the litany and the list of all the different AI that is out there. And if you're accessing something that hasn't been secured by your company, you could be causing problems, whether you know it or not.
It's causing problems because I think you hinted at it. I want to pull at that thread a little bit. It's causing problems because that's how it's built to operate on the AI side. These increasingly you can, I don't want to go down too much of like an economics um, rabbit hole, but increasingly a lot of economic activity, at least stateside, is wrapped up in how a very small amount of companies are doing, and they primarily have to do with AI, big tech. So the very model of how these corporations are going to be making money, or how they're betting that they're going to be able to make outsized gains in the future, is wrapped up in doing exactly what we just described: training on your data, training on your tendencies in order to then understand how to better market to you, what your predilections are, what they should put in front of your eyeballs to get engagement and to click.
That's right.
This is an acceleration of that age old aphorism of if the product is free, quote unquote, you're the product. It's just now ramped up to 11 and
100%.
autonomous in many ways. It's the rate of acceleration of and how it can iterate upon the data that it does get a hand in or it gets a hand on. That's really what's most alarming in this case, and it's an issue of the horse being far out of the barn before you
Yeah.
even realize. Wait a second, the LinkedIn one that you brought up, that was an eye opener even for me. I'm in the field, but I said, oh wait a second, you're right, and then you start thinking, well, of course Microsoft would want to have access and train on the type of data that it gets out of a platform like LinkedIn, because then it has
Right.
many services that it sells off of the insights that it can generate from
That's right.
that sort of training. So it's a aha moment, but also, oh no, step back when you start realizing the scope and impact of what that means.
It's scary. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I have had a conversation, whatever the conversation might be, and within 20 minutes,
Oh, sure.
my Facebook feed is now showing me videos related to that conversation. For example, this was just a couple of months ago, even. I was outside and talking to my neighbor who has a dog, and the dog was not feeling well and had a massive tumor growth thing
Mm.
going on. And so we were talking very briefly, like, how's she doing? The dog's just kind of sniffing me, and he's like, not great, but the tumor is what it is, and we're probably going to have to put her to sleep. And then we moved on
Right.
and had other conversations. I kid you not. By the time I got back into the house, I
Mm.
am now looking at a Facebook feed. Yes, I'm that old. I look at Facebook. Sorry, y'all. But looking at my Facebook feed just to scroll mindlessly, and it's picture after picture of dog tumors and
That's
medicine
madness.
they're trying to sell me for this dog tumor. And I'm like,
Did
I
you
don't
did
have
you
a
click
dog.
and you didn't interact with the
No, no, no,
program at all?
no.
It
I
just
don't click.
happened to be, but it happened to, but I'm saying
I
even
didn't
before.
search.
Yes,
No,
exactly.
no,
That's the
I didn't
crux.
search. That's exactly. I didn't search. I didn't do anything. And most of the time, I don't even have SIRI on, right? I don't even want to say the name
Yeah.
because
Oh,
sometimes it
there.
picks up even when I have it off. Right.
It'll be our third guest here. Right? It'll pop in and start
Well,
interacting.
and let's talk about that for a second, right? Because that's part of artificial intelligence, right, and machine learning, and it's there to listen to you all the time so
Mhm.
that it can meet your needs, right? Of I need the time and the weather because you're too, we'll say busy. I don't want to call you lazy, people, but too
I'll
busy to
say it,
look it
I'm
up.
lazy. Like I'll be like it's laziness for me, but you're absolutely
Yeah, I know.
correct.
Look, we all do it, I think, at some point. But as a lawyer, I'm not really allowed to have Siri on. Oop, I said the word. I'm like watching now, right? To make sure. Because
But that's a great
if it's
point there.
listening to my
Yeah.
conversations, it's not
Mm-hmm.
confidential. And if I'm having an actual attorney-client confidential meeting and
Mm.
there's this third-party device listening, whether it's your Zoom AI, whether it's your Gemini taking notes or any other note-taking system that's going on there, you've now released that to something else, right? And let's think about that. If you're using Google and you're using their AI system that is now listening to your meetings and taking notes, right? And those types and then sending notes to people that may have not been in the meeting, but that were originally on the invite that didn't get. And that's a whole host of problems, to say the least. Never mind the not really allowed to record anybody without their permission pieces. But
There's that gem I think that you're
yeah.
touching on, but it's
Yeah.
it's the ultimate for me. It's still we make a joke about it at work, but it's the ultimate vibe check. You'll not see me or my department talk less than once we see that notification go up that hey, this meeting's being transcribed, and it's suddenly like you
Yep.
cut out our tongues. We got nothing to say. We might
Mm-hmm.
grunt like our beloved gentleman above your head. We might just make grunts and hard faces, but and say oh we need to say, but you're not because there's what and honestly like let's tease that out a second.
Yeah.
It sometimes feels like a bit of a violation. I've caught myself
Oh, yeah.
going, how dare you? I didn't say we could. And I don't know where this conversation is going, but now I certainly know that I won't be taking it anywhere that I want to be open and transparent and vulnerable. And really, I feel even in a business context, it takes away a lot of that collaborative energy that you could potentially have because you want to
It does.
sit there and talk about real issues and real problems. Oh, wait a second. Am I recorded? Am I going to say the wrong thing that's going to get back to a department or whatnot, or put me in a bad light with some colleagues? No, then cool. We could have done this over an email because that's essentially what you're doing. You're making the auditory version of a receipt. I'm not down to really get into anything with you then. Sorry.
So, Omar, I should let you know that we are recording this podcast right now and it's going to be shared.
Man, but it's
I'm sorry, I
no,
couldn't resist.
but it's true. There,
But
at
it's
least
true. Yeah.
when you go in, but what I hated, what I truly couldn't stand, and I know I think there's been enough of a backlash here where I've had meetings where the folks don't even attend, but it happens to be so and so's whatever AI thing is recording.
Hmm.
I'm like, homie's not even on the call.
Yeah.
What's
Kick
going
him out.
on?
Kick him out.
Yeah,
Kick him out.
goodness,
Yeah.
I cannot stand that. At the very least, ask. This
Right.
is, I mean,
Correct.
but I'm also one of those weirdos, I guess, who, when I see a celebrity, I ask them before I take a photo. I guess I'm in the minority here,
Same. I
but
don't
I
just,
just
right. It's
no.
violation.
I mean, shout out
Right.
to Paul Giamatti, who I saw from afar, and we looked at each other and said, "Here you go." And I think he was very happy that I didn't bum rush him, right? Because
Yeah.
he looked like he had a Turkish bath bag type thing, one of those old timey like carpet bags. And I was like, he's relaxing. He's doing. I don't got to get up here, but he knows I saw him. I know I saw him. And if you think I'm lying, I can't be your friend. I really did see him, but
Oh,
I just didn't.
I know you're not lying. I've got a
For
celebrity
sure.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I am very similar to you. So I was in college. We were flying out to Chicago for nationals. I was a cross country runner. And so we were on the plane, and for whatever reason, I got separated from the rest of the team. My seat was up in the front of the plane. Everybody else was in the back of the plane.
Mm.
And behind me, no joke, was Joe DiMaggio.
Oh, get out of here.
And the boys from my team kept coming up
Sure.
and going, "Do you know who that is?" I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yes, I do." They're like, "You should say something." I'm like, I look over, I'm like, "He's sleeping. Leave him alone. Like,
Exactly.
do not mess with Joe DiMaggio. Like,
Leave
let
Joe
the
alone.
dude sleep. He's hanging out in the same coach class as the rest of us. Like, let the dude sleep, right?" So they kept coming up, and you could see he was not. I kept looking straight forward. Joe was literally sitting right behind me,
Yeah.
and he just kept grumbling, like, because you could tell he was like, kind of just, please let me be, right?
Exactly.
And he was much older at the point. I mean, he died a few
Of
years
course.
later. This was 1996. Okay.
There you go. Yeah.
So yeah, a hot minute. So we get off the airplane though, and we go to get our luggage, and Joe DiMaggio walks up to me and he says, "Can you do me a favor?" I said, "Sure." He says, "My grandkids are picking me up. Could you just watch my luggage so that I can go get them and they can come grab this for me?"
Okay.
So, yeah, no problem. So I'm standing there. My coach comes up. The boys are running over going, "Come on, come on, come on. We got to go. We got to go." "No, just wait." And they're like, "No, why?" I said, "No, I'm just looking at luggage for someone. Just be cool and just wait.
Sure.
Just wait your turn, boys."
Sure.
So Joe comes back in with the family, and they bum rush poor Joe. And I'm like, "I'm so sorry,
Yeah.
Mr. DiMaggio." I mean, I don't know Joe DiMaggio that way.
I was there
And
first
so,
name basis.
then they asked, like, "Can we have your autograph?" And he just looked at me, and I'm like, "Since they asked, would you mind?" And so I have his autograph on my plane ticket from my first year at Nationals. So,
That's
but yeah, I would never, like you said, it's a privacy thing, right? Like, don't annoy them. Like, they're
Mhm.
human. Let them be.
Yep.
Let them do their thing. So yeah, I'm the same way in that regard. But I feel that way, like you said, about AI and bringing it back in, where
Sure.
it is just there all the time, and we are voluntarily allowing it. I mean, I think that goes back to, what for you as a business are you using it for, or should be? And if you don't know if it's there or not, do a little investigating, right? And that's us in our daily life. If we're going back to Google and Gmail, and we're going back to LinkedIn and other products, I mean, it feels like that meme I see now where it's like somebody's standing there and it's like AI is everything, like right in their face.
Sure. Exactly.
And I laugh every time, and then I cry a little bit on the inside.
Well,
Because it's true. It's like, I
'cause
don't need my fridge with AI. Don't tell me what's in my food.
my Keurig doesn't need
No,
AI. It
no.
as much as it might try to sell it to me, but I think it's one of those. It's really, you touch on a very, many times. This is not new. This is why we're friends. But you touch on a very good point there with, if you don't know what it's being used for, what perked up for me was, well, then you might not need it. You might not have to use
Right.
it, but there's
That's right.
now this movement where, how back in the day, right, you couldn't get fired for you'll never get fired for hiring IBM. Right? The old saying was, and now you can sub in, whatever big time consulting firm, whatever big time tech firm there. But in a lot of cases, well, okay, Johnson, what do you got for me to get these quarters numbers up? Well, sir, it's French toast, but with AI. It's really, you have the push to just sprinkle AI on every carpet bomb, anything you can with AI, to at least get a bump in curiosity, at least get some of that buzzworthiness. But there's so many places where you don't need it. And if you need it, like we were talking pre-show here, you could be handling the use cases with just a little more investigation of your present tool set. It doesn't happen to be perma-connected back to a tech company that's then cooking up ways to sell to you.
Right. Or train off of your data so that they can use your business information to somebody else, because you've now put it in the system.
There's been some cases where that AI training then spools up a sub company out of one of these big major tech players that then force your mom and pops out of business. If you don't think that that's already happened or coming down the pipeline, then I'd love to have the Pollyanna view of the world that you do. It's much nicer than mine. And, it'd be great to live in your universe, but that's 1,000% what's coming, right? Wouldn't it be? I
wish I had those rose-colored glasses. I do not.
Me too. They're still in the mail, I guess.
Yeah,
they just never get to my house.
Yeah, mine got lost in the mail long ago. when you're in litigation, you lose it.
Yeah.
I do try to see the good in the world, but wow, it's very loud. Is all I can say for the noise level out
Need a
there.
palate cleanser every now and again. So I just got to watch like a funny movie or something. Yeah.
It's why I paint balloon animals, and
I was
I
gonna
give
say,
my love to Ted Lasso. That gives me
yeah,
hope in the world,
100%.
quite frankly.
You need
Which,
something.
yeah,
Yeah. Pictures
yeah.
of puppies or
I,
some,
you
yeah.
know, I do. Well, look, I paint puppy dogs. What are you going to do?
See,
I
there you go.
balloon animals, things
It's a
that make you
twofer.
happy.
It's a
It
twofer
is a
right there.
twofer.
You're getting, yeah.
Well, I want to touch on a couple of things that you said just a second ago, because you always have great points as well. And so when you're talking about whether or not you even need the tech, like, let's back it up, right? Everybody hears AI, and I think a lot of people don't understand that it comes from machine learning, and we've had machine learning well before ChatGPT. So we've got the new buzzword of AI, but really some of the basic functionality of it is stuff businesses already have access to without being exposed to being part of the training data set, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is how these, I think, so there's a couple things there. One, let's kind of touch about that for a second. And I also want to talk about like people giving businesses a fundamental understanding of what AI is and
Mm-hmm.
isn't,
Mm-hmm.
and where they get their information from, depending on which version of it you are using and what that training data is, right? It's only as smart as what it's trained on. So if
Mm-hmm.
you feed it comic books all day long, it's not going to be able to give you an encyclopedia entry bit of information, right? Or a
True.
dictionary definition type of thing.
True.
So if you're on Reddit training on personal blogs,
Sure.
beware when you use that as your own advice, right? Because you put it into AI, make me this thing, it spits something out for you, and then you put it in as your own, and anybody who actually knows the field goes, no, that's the dumbest thing I think I've ever seen, right? Or that
Mm-hmm.
clearly is computer assisted, we'll just say.
They're huffing
I've actually
gas,
seen
as
that
the
this
kids
week.
say. Right?
So
Yeah. Well, I mean, and it's what's really sad. You bring up Reddit. It used to be. This is like a nice, cool case study of pre and post AI
mhm,
implementation to a beloved technology, because it used to be one of those things where, especially in my field as well, you'd be able to go in and get, say, unbiased, unvarnished reviews or chronicles of use for new technologies. So if, hey, I'm thinking of maybe swapping out my firewalls, or, I'm sitting on a vendor call, give me the real deal. What's this? And it was great for a time where I could go back and say, I would get that unvarnished take. This is great. It does certain things well, or run, right? Or it's a good technology, but the support is awful. Please run. Don't want to name company names there, but there's one that, you can fill in the blanks there that I'm thinking about right now. But now,
put it in the
sadly,
comments.
I will. I absolutely listen, and I'll have them.
Anyone listening, feel free to put your tech issues in the comments.
Yeah, take the guess, and then I'll thumb up which one it is, and I'll just leave it there, just passive aggressively. Now, even not only is that data, and I'll say this, Reddit got on the bandwagon of monetizing it proper. At the very least, from a Reddit standpoint, they're not just letting and then chasing with the IP police, chasing folks. So you're training on our data and you're getting economic gain off of it. They at least there. But conversely, even though they got paid, Reddit got paid. Now I can't trust 95%. Now it's really on there. I go down there for the sillies, and the comment section always sends me. There's always just some innovative, funny stuff. Now even some of the original posting content are just bots that are
Yeah,
trained, that are AI bots to them. And so we're getting a sort of recursive death loop, as you said, stuff that was originally trained on maybe some somewhat dodgy first pass material that then
right.
keeps retraining on that same sort of data. That's the third, fourth, fifth, sixth iterations of that are going to
Mhm.
be god awful. The drift is going to be terrible, or maybe not even drift, Alyson. It might be training to what it should be. But like you said, the first kernels were somewhat
The data's
questionable.
poisoned. I mean, I hate to
Yes,
say data poisoning because that's a specific term,
but the
but
data's, yeah,
garbage in, garbage
exactly.
out. Right.
Mm-hmm.
If you've got
Yep.
garbage you're putting in and it's already deteriorated, let's say over
Mm-hmm.
time, because now you're
Sure.
having bot interactions that's putting
Mm-hmm.
more garbage into the system. Like
Exactly.
you said, the system's training on what it's doing what it's supposed to do is training on it. But if
Mm-hmm.
it's training on garbage,
Mm-hmm.
you're only ever going to get garbage. You can't you can't polish that turd, as they say. I
No,
hate
you're
to say
right.
it that way, but
And no,
you
but
know,
you're absolutely correct. And if let's game it out a step further. If you're then handing the reins over to a system that, or I should take a step back. If any of what we just said maybe sounds like it's hard to follow, or what are these two folks getting at? then that should be a bit of at least an orange flag, if not a red one, where it says, if I don't understand kind of what that process entails, how am I handing over the reins to any mission critical processes to automated, no
Yes.
human in the loop sort of workflows? That's where we start to get from the realm of, well, okay, we're talking about tech and it's abstract. That's where we start to potentially get into the human harm element or the societal impact element of handing over the reins to important processes to automated technology that has been maybe trained not in the best way. That's where you
Right.
get into the weird spots, Allison.
Oh yeah. Well, weird and dangerous for your business, right?
Yes.
So I can tell you at one point we use a program that's like, oh, we've got AI. Okay, great. And it will handle your customer service. Oh, that sounds great. And just fill out your knowledge database. Okay, so we answer all the questions. We give it all the training material it needs. This is if somebody asks this, here are your answer choices,
Mhm.
whatever. Oh, okay, no problem. And then we go through and we start testing it and released it for people to try to use it. And we took it off in about 48 hours because of
Right.
how bad the interactions were. And because we are excuse me, we are a company that very much takes customer service very seriously. We want to put a quality product out there. We want to make
Mhm.
sure we're meeting your needs.
Mhm.
We are part of education. And
Mhm.
so we don't want to be a barrier to your success. And so if you're trying to get your question answered and all you're getting is a runaround from a system that can't seem to understand, even though the info is all there and it's not running correctly, well, then you didn't help us any. Right.
Mhm.
And so, as a CEO, I'm answering support tickets, like trying to make sure everybody's okay
Yeah.
and apologizing for, what, we were trying something new and we will not be doing that again with this product, right? But it was not operating in the way that we need. And I think your point is crucial and critical for businesses. If you don't understand how the tech operates and you don't understand how the system should operate for your business, right? Meaning, I know what the issue is I need to solve. I have an idea of how to do it, but maybe I can't do it, but a system can do it. If you can't say that and identify exactly what you need to take over, then you can't hand it over to a computer. And even if you do hand it over, you have to monitor like we did, right? Which is
Mhm.
going, oh, something went off rails very quickly and is making this a worse situation for our customers, not a better one, right?
And
And
yeah.
then making it worse for my customer support team, including myself, because now I've got to go back and fix the problems and smooth out those issues and the customer concerns based on that negative experience. So I sat through a training. I don't even want to say training. It was like a CLE thing for a
Mhm.
local
Mhm.
cyber group.
Mhm.
I'll leave them
Mhm.
out because I don't want to embarrass anybody. This gentleman was up there from a marketing side. Well, I try to be
No,
nice.
listen, I just the name shall be omitted to protect the innocent. It's just we both already hit one of those on both of our
Right.
sides of the convo.
Put your
Yeah.
guess in the comments below. No, I'm just kidding.
We'll do a giveaway. We'll give a prize to anyone who just silently. We won't
You know
even.
what? I'll give you a book. I'll give you a free copy of AI Security Essentials,
There
right?
you go. If you can suss that out.
Not for
Yeah.
this, but you know what? Because I said it, we'll figure out a way how to do that anyway. I'm happy to do that because we are talking about AI security essentials. So you know what? I will give away a free copy to somebody who puts a comment in our YouTube chat, and then Omar, I'll let you decide what that should be. Not just a
Okay.
comment, but like a question or something. So ponder on that as we go through this episode, and then
I
we'll
got
tell
you.
you at the end.
I got
But
you.
I will happily give that person a free copy of AI
Look at this.
essentials. So,
Hooking the people up.
yeah, I'm like, why not? We're here, we're talking about it, right? But for the business, it's really understanding what are your needs and then
Mm.
getting the right tool. And whether the tool is a human, whether it's a human here or a human remote or a human overseas or a computer, depending on what those things are, you still need to be able to know how it works and ask the questions, right? It's such a big thing. And just for people that are going, okay, I'm not quite sure I understand all of this, but I need to understand some of it. One of the things that's crucial in any technology, that includes your phone, that includes Microsoft products, that includes Google products, whatever you're using, there is always fine print, teeny tiny writing that none of us wants to read, but someone was paid a lot of money to write. And the reason is it's designed to protect the people who have given you that product, right? The access to that product, whether you've paid for it or free, there are always terms and conditions right? And acceptance that you have to provide before accessing that piece of technology or theme park entrance or whatever, right? Disney even makes you sign off on an arbitration agreement now when you walk in. You
I've
buy
seen
your
it.
annual passes, you have to sign
Yep.
off on an arbitration agreement. Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's because they
Yep.
got sued by somebody who passed away from anaphylactic shock after eating in a restaurant at Disney Springs that had something in it she obviously was allergic
But
to and
but
had
nobody
conveyed.
passes away at Disney.
There were 5 in the last 2 months.
But to kind of speak to your point there, like in
Yeah.
terms of the protections, it's
Right.
unbalanced, right?
Yes.
The folks that
Yes.
are writing the small print, to your point, yeah.
That's right. They're paid a lot of money to do it. You've got to read it. And if you don't understand it, as Omar says, get a lawyer, homie. Get a friend who's a lawyer
That's the
or
move.
hire one to understand it. But here's some basic questions I think that would be helpful, that things you should really understand for any type of technology, but especially with AI in particular, since that's the topic of this particular episode, right? So these are different types of clauses that you should be looking for in these contracts. It's going to be a lot of words. Some of them are going to be super complicated. There will be double negatives and things like that. So just go slow and take your time, because even as a lawyer with 20 plus years experience, I'm not going to pretend I don't read these things multiple times to go, wait, what were they saying again?
Mhm.
Because it's meant to be a bit convoluted, sadly, right? So one of the things is you want to know what the training rights are. Okay. You want to know if the vendor is using customer data to train, fine tune, improve any of the foundation model or any shared model. So that's the other thing. You want to know if this is a foundation model, meaning it stays with this training model, right? This particular AI you're
Mhm.
using, or is it actually really a third party with an API? And now the foundation model is something else. And this is actually what you're using is the shared model, because a lot of these things piggyback off each other, right, Omar?
Sure.
It's,
Sure.
you think you're getting product A, but it's really product B dressed up as product A.
Absolutely. It's the Scooby Doo where
Yes.
the ghost at the end, and then
If it
many
weren't for your
times
meddling kids, I'd get away with this
I
AI.
would have gotten away with this AI. It's and you on top of that, right? I want to stress that's your first line of investigation and assurance,
Yeah.
because even if you're able, and it's a dense jungle to navigate, period, which is why there's a profession dedicated to creating it as well as navigating it. So it's on both sides. So it's always good, right, to have lawyer homies. But then on top of that, there's the cynic in me that will go, okay, even if they say that this data is not leaving and it's staying put, I'm still gonna maybe want to consider some technical controls to ensure that that data is not leaving anywhere, staying put. Now,
That's right.
what I've found and I've seen recently is that at that juncture is where you might even get the users to start revolting. And the aspect of AI that comes to mind is the web grounding. Now, it's a hot issue where, and that's, you can think, I'm using AI. One of the things that I love about many of these tools is that it can curate the internet for me. Now, that can be very dangerous. It can be very, it can be hit or miss, but on low stakes things that I'm just like, hey, give me the best place to eat in this area. Worst case, the impact might be bad food poisoning, right? If it guides me down a bad path, but
Yeah.
which is not fun, but it's not going to, like, hopefully deep sex my business or kill me, right? Maybe as I get older, I may want to play less roulette with that. That's, it's web grounding. It goes to the internet, it curates it on some of these models where it will show you its work, or where when you set it to show you its thought process, you can see I went here, I went here, I went here. The speed is part of the selling point. It's amazing. It can do it a lot faster than we can. Great. Now, if you kill web grounding in order to have it inside of an enterprise that has sensitive data as part and parcel of what it trades in and what it does day in and day out, if you kill that in order to make sure that that sensitive data doesn't get out onto the web by some fashion, either purposely, as you're saying with the training, or by
Exactly.
mistake, because tech boo-boos can happen. I'm even taking my cynic hat off. Sometimes the folks that create these tools don't know that it's going to do a thing. That's part of the
Right.
danger, is that these things can sometimes do things you don't want them to do and do them quickly. So you kill web grounding. Well, then how efficacious is the tool anymore if all you're getting, as you said, you gave it, like with the customer service tool there, right? I'm positive, knowing your company, knowing how you guys play the game, you made sure that it was safe. However, if it can't beam out to the internet, like it's going to be a frozen snapshot of how smart it was at this point, can't touch the internet beyond a certain date. So you're getting into situations where you might want to be safe. You might want to lock it down, but then your own user base is going to come back and say, listen, you have 2 minutes to turn web browsing back on, or we're going to throw you out of a window, which may or may not have happened that I've witnessed in my time, but allegedly. I'm not going to cop to whether, but so the users and the user base, without understanding the implications, I think that can be kind of almost weaponized against the yous and the me's in this equation, trying to cry out for, hey, let's at least use this with our eyes open. And the user base goes, yeah, shut up. I just want to be able to ask it what I need to ask it. And then it also goes into shadow IT, right? It kind of circles back around, and folks are just going to then use models that you aren't even peeking at. Like this
No,
is
here's a question though. If all you're asking it is, where's the best restaurant? Why not just Google that? Why do you need AI for that? Google's been around forever,
and
it'll tell you what the reviews are.
I said,
less environmental impact.
That's
not
true
to be
too.
That tree hugging hippie.
No,
but,
what do you mean tree hugging hippie? I saw my electric bill the other day, and not only is it because we've done some weird stuff in where I live for energy. On top of that, you and I have both heard the reports that big tech is moving into certain places, and that those costs are being passed along to whether or not they build their own pocket nuclear reactors, which is a terrifying phrase that came out of my mouth. That was unironic, but that is actually like that. That's a thing that we're considering because, it works so well in comic books. But that notwithstanding,
all I'm thinking is Homer Simpson right now.
Me too. But then, you know what? I'm a new dad. So when I think of Homer, I think of the Do It For Her, right? That little image where, so it's near and dear, and I have all the dad paraphernalia. So, it hits me in the feels. But at the same time, listen, I knew people that worked in those places, and they were great. They were awesome, but it's a heavy responsibility. Again, another instance of where maybe technology has skirted or it's almost on the offside line of where we can keep up with understanding impact and safe use versus not. This is such a interwoven topic, but where the horse is out of the barn. I hate to keep saying it. There's so many places where this just got out ahead of regulators, of litigators, of cyber folks to understand it.
Well, it's hard to get your hands around it, right? I think, when businesses, all they hear is you gotta, they're like, well, what am I missing out on? And there's so many things to consider, right? If the data it was trained on is stolen data where the author or the artist wasn't compensated, and now you're creating stuff based off of the training from that stolen data, how does that impact your business? And say you're creating art, I use that in quotes, right?
Sure.
With AI that is now trained off of some artist's work. Are you violating their intellectual property rights?
I love the quotes.
Not that the people can see it, but air quotes. Yeah, on YouTube they can see it. But
it hit me hard because that's probably the most art I could probably make. All right, so like give a kid a chance here. I think I can't draw to save my life. Gun to my head, it's stick figures are all the way down. But I wanted to ask you the thing I saw in the news the other day that got me was there's now AI music artists.
Say that last word again.
AI music artists, AI like celebrity music.
Yes, Suno and other things like that. Yeah.
How the hell does that work in terms of who gets rights and what? Yeah, there you go. Boom. Okay, that's what I thought. I was hoping.
It's a shrug. For people listening, that was a shrug of, again, it's depending on who are they training off of. Okay, not to go, because I don't do a whole lot of IP work specifically, though enough knowledge to have this conversation. Sampling of music has been around for a long time, and there are licensing licenses that go along with that, right? I think we all, maybe not we all, but Omar, you are old enough to remember when Vanilla Ice of Ice Ice Baby, of course, got sued because it sounded like
Ice Ice Baby fame. Because some folks are thinking that he was just a reality star, right? Some demos.
Yeah, no, we're talking like early '90s rapper,
actual Ninja Turtle fan, friend, supporter. One Vanilla Ice boy.
Vanilla Ice, yes. So But, he got sued by Queen, right? And Marvin Gaye's family has brought up, right, where other people have taken from sexual healing and have done that. So
Mhm.
if we look at case law as a guideline, right, since there's no, you can or can't regulations yet specifically in this particular area that would apply at this very moment of recording, right? And
Mhm.
again, I haven't researched it today, so I'm talking on whatever I've seen recently.
Sure.
Um, you know, if there's already been a history of you can't do this without compensating, and yet they're using that to create rhythms and sounds and sampling, and then you're using those types of things, just like with trademarks and copyrighted books and artwork, they ask you on the application, has any of this been generated by AI? And if
Mhm.
it's not human created as of
Mhm.
right now, you cannot protect that as your intellectual property. And
Really?
the courts are really looking at it and they're starting to be a little bit of, well, how much of it was AI and how much of it was prompting and then how much of it was tweaking after the prompting.
Mhm.
So how much human is it versus how much computer is in it? I it gets to be a very interesting metric of non-tech people sitting in robes trying to decide how much tech was used and not used and how much was human interaction. So it's going to be fascinating to watch that as that plays out. Probably not for the people who feel like they're being stolen from, right? And
Sure.
probably not for those who think that they're creating something new by using stuff that was trained on somebody else's. And so it
Sure.
is not an easy topic, certainly one that we cannot parse through readily without me pulling up a whole lot of case law and
But
going through
it
in that way,
parallels
but
though. I think, but it parallels the discussion we're having about, well, are these AI companies, are these AI tools training on your data? Because from a cyber context, one of the questions that we ask when vetting vendors is, wait a second, how much of this is, who's getting the most gain out of this agreement, out of this engagement that we're doing? Because if we're bringing in a tool and it purports to do XYZ, does my taxes, but how much data is it then ingesting that it will say that it needs to ingest in order to do the things that it promises us? But then what about, okay, version 2.0, it just got better off of having unfettered access to our environment and training on said environment.
that's right.
How much of that, should it be then a version 2.0 brought
Oh,
to you
you don't get a
by
kickback for that. Come on
C?
now.
And that's,
They
I
they get
know,
another they get a more advanced product.
silly
They get to
me.
make the money. Right.
But
And you're
it's
the guinea pig
but it's
for
a
free.
consideration, and it breaks. It takes some of your
And then they
system down
charge
to
you
figure.
more for the
Yep.
privilege of
For
having the more advanced technology that you help train.
that's man. This
Don't you
is
love it?
it's a that's a mob like
Capitalism.
it's a mob like enterprise. That's a protection racket in a weird way. When you put it in the context of
Yeah.
cyber tools, at that point, right? It'd be terrible if somebody were to use this data about your environment that we know about now and maybe set an AI tool again. The the
Sounds like blackmail.
Really, it's 100%
Extortion
just
of some
straight
sort.
up extortion.
Yeah.
There,
Yeah.
again, it's understanding what the model is doing, why, and if that
Yeah.
really is, if the juice is worth the squeeze. Now, I will say all that, then add on to who has the time to
Mhm.
take that deep dive. And I think that, that's me kind of putting back my empathy hat on. Fully understand, right? You have overtaxed teams that are
Right.
looking to, or being not pressured, but saying, hey, listen, hearing all this AI stuff out in the tech world, why can't we bring some of that into our space in order to modernize? And then you have a catch 22 where it's like, well, we have to move fast in order to get this in because we have business stakeholders that are going, why are we behind? Without maybe fully understanding it, or maybe we want to start a pilot, but then how much of the pilot is going to be monitored? It's so difficult, I think, to do this correctly. And the lack of friction is
Mhm.
decidedly on one side of that equation, which is just set and forget it, get AI to do what you need to do, and then we're off to the races and realizing too late what
Mhm.
you've agreed to and what you've allowed to be set upon your system.
So let's go back through that list then of things to maybe a little checklist that people,
Sure.
listeners can use, right? So you want to know if, are you looking at the language? Does it have training rights? Is it opt in or opt out, right? There's two very
Mhm.
different models, right? As you know, which
Mhm.
is by default, you are into training unless you tell us no. The other option, of course, is you're opted out unless you opt. Now, Google and LinkedIn are both the you are in unless you say you want to be out. right? They default you into that area. So you need to check your settings in those areas. And so that is just a basic question. If you're looking at that new technology, are you in automatically? Are you out? Are you doing the hokey pokey? You just need to know, what are your rules? What are your rights? Are you jumping in, putting a foot out, whatever that is. Turn yourself
shaking it
around,
around, and then
shake it all about.
But to your point, though, on your side of the house here, it's not. It's
Yeah.
we're beating up on some of these companies, and rightfully so. I mean, forget it.
They're just
But
the
it's
obvious ones right now.
but
I
it's
mean,
not
there's more than
illegal.
them doing it.
It's not
Right.
illegal to do what they're doing still at this point.
Correct. It's not.
Yeah.
It's not.
So why not?
Yeah. Right. Well, look, I can tell you, look, I'm also a professional mediator, though I'm not your mediator in this case. Right. There you go. There's your
It's
disclaimer.
good. I love
But
this.
but as a mediator, one of the things we talk about confidentiality, that's a part of our opening statement mandate. And you can do it one of two ways. Hey, everybody in this room, I play by the rule that everything everybody says is confidential, and I will not share it with the other party, even when we break out into separate sessions, unless you specifically tell me I have the authority to do it. The other option is I can come in and say, hey, everything you say at mediation, though it is confidential and cannot leave mediation, I will feel free to share between room to room unless you specifically tell me not to share it. Now, I've seen mediators use it either way, depending on what they're trying to do and what they're more comfortable with. So if you've got somebody who's more comfortable with, okay, I'm going to do everything's confidential unless you specifically authorize me to share it, right? Agreement. Then you wait and say, is that okay if I share that with the other side? And they say yes or no. If they say no, then you'd say, okay, but for me to move the needle forward, we need to talk about X, Y, and Z. How would you like me to get there if I can't now share that information with them, right? And so you have to have those additional conversations. If it's the everything in, unless you tell me not to, you have to get the ascension of everybody in the room to say, yes, we agree that everything that we all talk about, whether it's in this room or the next room, when we break out into those separate groups, can be shared unless I tell you no. Is much easier for a mediator because you don't have to remember, did they authorize it or not? It's everything's authorized unless you tell me it's not. So that's just what the tech companies are doing. It's that same version of, we want to do all in unless you're smart enough to figure out how to turn it off. And then there's others that go, look, they use it as a marketing piece. We're not training on it unless you allow us to. And then it's only for customer service purposes and improvement and all that kind of stuff. So it's just asking the question, right? Like you said, it's not that anybody's doing something right or wrong. I'm not trying to villainize Gmail, Google, all them for doing it. So I'd prefer you tell me you're doing it and let me know. And
There's there's still nuance, I think, to
yes.
It's not like we're beating up on them, but there could be a better way. Although, and to a certain extent, you're seeing some companies, as you said, that they're at least head nodding towards privacy concerns or data governance concerns, and then use that as a differentiator in a very crowded field. Now, whether or not that turns out to be true when you pull the mask Scooby-Doo wise at the end of the episode, and you go, hold on, this was just a bunch of lip service. Awesome. But what you were putting in my head there when talking about the different shades of mediation, right? And this is here, I'm putting my cynic hat back on. What gets me sad is that all in a AI and data training context, that is asking of run-of-the-mill enterprises, big, small, medium, extra large, micro enterprises, to have a level of data governance hygiene that I think is Pollyannic. It really, that's what kills me. In order to then best defend against slippage, leakage, also nefarious activities, because in the hands of a malicious insider, this stuff could be an absolute nuclear bomb for your enterprise. But you're asking folks to have a level of data governance discipline, data governance hygiene that I think is very rare. And then so you don't have guardrails. The car don't have any brakes to begin with, and then you're putting a nitro pack on the car. And that's essentially what we're having with this. And that's what keeps me up at night. It's like we haven't figured out how to walk. And now, you're strapping us on the back of a NASA shuttle and saying, we'll figure it out on the way.
Now I'm just seeing Wile E. Coyote on his little roller skates.
That's what it is.
His Acme rocket pack just
that's what it
zooming
is.
by. That's it. Yeah.
And the roadrunner is profits or relevance. It's got to keep up. Got to get there. Or for me now, it's also the State Farm, right? You almost had $1, right? Remember that one where it's but you're having to suppose, and this is, for me, this is where I can villainize certain companies, because we all know that most of the customers and that base aren't going to have the level of data governance rigor sufficient to even make that sort of differentiation that you mentioned in the mediator sense, where it's like, okay, we can turn it all off or we can have it all on. You're asking them to have data loss prevention tip top Magoo there, which it's a big supposition. And then now on
It
top
is.
of that, we're accelerating the impact with this, with this new technology. It's grim.
Well, and to your point, take it a step further, right? When you're talking about common products, LinkedIn, Google, like you said, there's no responsibility and accountability. And the big companies are easily in a position, because there's nothing that says they can't in regulations or whatnot, shoving it on the consumers. And not all the consumers are as sophisticated to even understand how to get to the settings to turn them on and off, right? If my grandmother, I mean, I don't have any that are alive, but let's pretend I have a grandmother that's alive at this point in my life. If I had a grandmother that was alive, right, and they were in there using Google to send me Gmail, grandma's not going to know how to get in and turn on and off the settings type of thing. To be able to, oh, wait, that's a smart setting. Oh, yes, because she's not using it. Grandma is not using that smart setting for her bank statements.
Mm.
So it's to sort through her Gmail. I mean, she's
Of
just
course.
sending you cute pictures of the puppy and whatever that's going on in
chain
her
letters,
life.
right? Shout out to my
And
mom.
chain letters.
Chain letters, right? Shout out
Those
to
have
Carmen.
thankfully slowed. Now we have other horrible things, but the prince has no longer sent me things from Ethiopia and Nigeria.
Now it's just WhatsApp.
Very upset.
Now it's all gone to WhatsApp, where it's like, if you don't share this, Jesus will hate you or something, right? That's the ones I get from my mom, which I don't know. She trying to tell me
I'm thankful
something.
I do not get those anymore. Let me tell you. Gosh, I do not miss that. So let's go back for that business that is trying to take those steps to become a bit more savvy, right? So they're asking about training rights. They're asking about, is it opt-in or opt-out? They're asking, you should be asking, is it training, like we said, the foundation training, or is it on the shared, right? How many AI systems are really going on in here? You also want to know about data deletion and exit rights.
Big time.
Right? So when you do close off that program, is there data you're getting back? What are they keeping in their system? Those types of questions. I think one of the things we were talking about earlier was about that audit and that transparency piece as well.
Yep.
And I know like it's a bit more up there, but you want to know what specific data was used for training, which models are trained or being fine-tuned using that customer data, what the retention destruction schedule of that data might be. And are there any third-party uses of these trained models that is derived from your data? That's probably the quick little checklist. I mean, that's just, like you said, it's the tip of the iceberg. I mean, you want to know what other data is in there. If you're using it to create certain things, you don't want to get sued because of intellectual property violation rights or something else along those. I mean, there was a suit recently where some stuff was purchased, and I don't remember which vendor it was. I apologize. I can't remember if it was Perplexity or I think it was a different one. But what the court ultimately found was that they paid to train on some of the data. They didn't pay, and they actually pirated. So not only like kind of stole, but like flat out stole.
Legally stole. Yeah.
Yeah, completely. And so the court was like, yeah, if you pirated that and that information is what you used, you owe all those people money, and you were not allowed to train your system on stuff you pirated. So they at least made a line there of, if you stole it to train your data, that's a definite no-no. And just one other thing, when we were talking about the opt-in and opt-out and kind of that responsibility piece of it, right? There are certain regulations, whether it's here in this country or actually I think it's more European, that you have to disclose for now, right? For now. It's like that Avenue Q song. It's only for now. Anyway. Love that song.
It's a great song.
All the random references in one podcast episode, y'all. That's not AI.
It's not. It's got to be us.
God bless. We've got Scooby-Doo and Avenue Q all in one episode.
That's rhymes.
And a little Dr. Seuss rhyming.
That's it.
But back to the point at hand. Yeah, and Vanilla Ice. See, squirreled all over that.
On Van Winkle, man. You don't get a lot of Rob Van Winkle references.
I love that is his real name. Sorry.
It's even better.
Shout out to Rob Van Winkle.
Yeah.
That is so true. And he's a celebrity, so y'all be nice to him. There you go. We'll tie it all up. Don't
ask for consent.
Approach and take photos.
Ask for consent before you take
there it is.
his visage.
But at least for now, as you pointed out, in some of the European rules and regulations, right? You have to disclose if you're using AI. So that's another consideration for businesses. If you're using the AI in some way, the AI, it sounds like the Facebook, sorry. But if you're using artificial intelligence in some of your systems, and depending on what it's touching, and if it's going to adversely impact clients, customers, patients, you should be disclosing that, or might have to, depending on where you are and what your touch looks like for your
Mhm.
organization, that you are using AI. So if you are implementing that type of product, you better know what you're putting in the soup before you put it in there, or you're going to give everybody food poisoning. This was actually an example. I mean, honestly, this is an example I used with a friend, oh gosh, about a year ago. We were talking about AI without regulations. It's
Mhm.
basically the equivalent of like FDA no longer looking at your beef, right? Or your
Boy,
meat products,
that's a
and they're not
great
looking at the
that's
sanitation
a
and whatever.
great
And
yeah.
right? They're throwing all the garbage in. So you don't know if you're really getting cow. You don't really know if you're getting the cut of cow you thought you were getting. And you don't know if it's actually on clean equipment, dirty equipment, somebody lost a finger in there, whatever that is. And then you're packaging it up and then you're consuming it. And
It's
if you
all hot
consume a
dogs.
bunch of garbage,
It's all hot dogs. That's
it's
essentially
all
so
hot
so
dogs.
every cut
Yeah,
of meat becomes like
a
lips
hot dog
and a-holes at that point, and you're just yeah, and it might taste
right
great,
there.
but it's gonna feel awful. It's gonna
Talk
hurt
about
you,
food poisoning. And
right?
now put that food poisoning in your business. So,
Oof,
we are not anti-AI individuals, right? There
no.
are pieces I can tell you my tech team, based on their cyber security and cyber resilience training and knowledge and experience, we are very fortunate that our CTO in our company literally did AI for Space Command. He's been doing AI for 10 years.
Yeah. Before it was cool.
But I'm gonna
Yeah,
if I can give a quick shout out on something as a cool tool for y'all just to test out, it is
sure.
100% free. It is not training on your data. It's actually, the website is hackme, HACKME.ai. And that particular website was created by this person just for grins and giggles on a weekend,
Mm,
but it teaches you, if you really want to know in general how these systems work and how to train a real neural network, and experience how AI research works.
mm,
We're not talking prompt engineering and how do you prompt it right and get stuff out, but what the system is doing to make that happen.
mhm,
If you really want to try to understand that process, check this out, this website. It is completely free. It's a launch AI lab that's in there. It'll train you on TensorFlow training.
mhm,
You can actually see the algorithms in real time, and it's meant
mhm,
for you to mess up and keep trying as you're
mhm,
learning to train an AI system. So
mhm,
this was created by, like I said, somebody who did it because he lives and breathes this stuff,
mhm.
but at the same time understands the challenges that we have and wants to educate for free. So check out hackme.ai. I didn't mean to do, like I said, it's free. So this is not a product placement or a push. I don't endorse anything, but it is a free resource that is out there for
Sure.
people to check out if you really want to understand what is it that AI is doing with my information. How do you build that to do that?
Mhm.
Not just how do you prompt it. I mean, there's plenty of people that'll teach you the quickies, the quick and easy of prompting, and teach it
Sure.
this and tell it that and give it a roll and tell it it's messed up yesterday. And, there's plenty of people that'll give you all that kind of
Mhm.
stuff, but you don't know what you're getting. And I guess that's the other piece for businesses, right? If you're relying, and this goes back to a point you made earlier, Omar, if you're relying on AI to fill in a missing gap for you in something you don't know, whether it's coding, graphic generation, creating your own legal documents. Dear God, please do not do that, businesses. I cannot tell you how bad that is for you.
That is
That's a whole
such
conversation. I could give you a quick soapbox in a
self-sabotage.
second. It is,
Self-sabotage at that point.
you're setting it, you're going to make my job suing you so much easier.
It's
I'm just
listen,
saying.
you're more afraid of success than failure at that point. I'm going to take the Eminem line. If you're doing that, you're doing that on purpose. There's something inside yourself that hates you yourself or your business. Please don't do it.
So
Just take,
it's
like,
true. It's true.
stop. Just stop
Yeah.
right now.
ChatGPT is not your lawyer. It never will
No,
be.
it's neither is
You
it your
know,
doctor. Like, I'm not, listen,
oh,
I might be beefing with
yeah.
my sister at this time, but like, if I got a medical question, I'm asking her, not Chat GPT. It's just not going to
That's
come.
right.
Oh,
Or
Lord.
WebMD. I mean, that's the other
Oh,
thing, right? Some of the stuff you just can Google to at least get some information, look up your laws, look up your regulations, but
sure.
find somebody who's trained in that area to give advice for your specific situation. Because even if ChatGPT spits out, oh, this is a contract you can use, It's not for your state. It's not for your business. It's not based on your exposure. It's not based on your policies. It knows nothing about you, even if you put it all in there. And by the way, if you do put it all in there and you're using a free version, you have just given up your business knowledge to be part of the training. So we'll bring it all back around, right?
Lose my number if you've done this like that. Like we cannot be because in a very real sense, and this is like one of my pet issues, right? I lose my number because if you're one of my suppliers and you're doing this, and this is where the rabbit hole gets really even worse. If you're one of my suppliers and you're doing this, then I'm essentially doing it to a certain extent because I can't quite understand. Or if you're assuming that I have the level of vendor management and data governance, hygiene, and rigor that's at a level 10 or 11, just as table stakes, you're asking so much from an organization that most likely is focused on something else as its value add. It's not just living in the tech space to be. So I think companies are preying upon that dissociation and that disjuncture, that space between what you're trying to use it for versus the level of technological savvy you need in order to use it safely. I think my hope is that down the road, the differentiators then start to emerge where the folks that actually make it are actually transparent and that actually make it simple to use it in a safe way. They're gaining some traction, but then maybe I am being Pollyannic in my 41 years of life where who knows? I doubt it, but
Well, and I want to add something to what you said because I think it was a quick mention by you, but I think it's worth mentioning specifically in just a brief bit more detail because I know we're definitely going over. You could tell AI, we could sit here for hours, y'all, on this topic because
and not
we
touch
didn't even
everything.
scratch the surface.
That's
right.
What, yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
But this was something you kind of, I don't want to say it was a throwaway, but it was something you mentioned, and I think it needs to be highlighted, which is if you're using vendors for your business, you need to know if they're using AI also and what kind and what exposure. And if they're doing, so if you're working with, say, an accountant, are they using some software where they're putting your numbers and your data into AI, right? Or even your law firm, right? Is your law firm using it? Which AI are they using? And is it training? Is it a paid for subscription or not? If not everybody has the same budget, we'll say. And early on when ChatGPT came out, I can't tell you how many posts I saw on Facebook of lawyers going, this is great. And I threw all my discovery in there. And I literally cringed, super cringed, that where you're looking at it going, please tell me it was a paid version that you locked down before you put all of your clients' info in there, please.
Of course not.
I quickly was like, exit conversation. My eyeballs did not read this. Oh my gosh. Like, can't even.
I can't cop to knowing this.
I can't even. Right.
I can't. I was never here.
I cannot witness this.
I was never here.
I was never here. Scooby, the mask goes on.
Goes back
and
on.
I sneak out the back of Scooby-Doo.
You just like sync off camera and, suddenly there's a speedboat leaving the area. Yeah, exactly. Boom. Right. Elevator to the boat.
Elevator down.
I'm in Cuba.
So yes, ask your vendors. Don't be shy about it. So that is a tough conversation. But it's one you need to have because it protects you and your business, and you need to know, and it protects your clients, your patients, your customers, right? So again, if you're a medical facility and you're sending out x-rays to another organization and they are using a third-party system to review them, to train on, which there is value. So we're not going to poo-poo this completely. There is pros and cons if it's maintained, if they're looking for drift, if privacy's in place, right? There's a lot of ifs, right? To make that a good thing. But maybe they are using that technology. You as the doctor need to know that because then you need to disclose that to your patients that their info may be used for training purposes as part of that. Okay, this is not AI, but it's a medical thing because it drives me nuts. Sorry. I know you're in the field, Omar, but I don't know if anybody else, I drove my local medical facility a little bit batty once because I sat and read the terms and conditions while I was in the waiting room. You make me wait, I'm going to read it before I sign it. And in there, right, they specifically say you are authorizing, unless you tell them no, to allow students to work on you.
Wow.
If they take a biopsy or part of your body parts or whatever it is for the procedure you're doing, any of that they can use it for further training and investigation unrelated to you. You're like giving up your cells.
Lovely.
And your DNA.
You're donating your body to science.
You're donating to science, whether you know it or not, right?
But you're still alive. Yeah.
but you're still alive. Correct. Yeah, this is not an organ donor situation. It's I took a biopsy of your cell, and when I'm done with it, I'm now going to use it for X, Y, and Z. If you are not cool with that, please read your documentation before you have any procedures so that you can go ahead and let them know what your desires are as to whether or not you're okay with those things. So
I
again,
guarantee
someone
you
was
no
paid
one,
a lot of money.
but I guarantee you nobody read that. And I guarantee
Oh,
you, and also, and
the local hospital literally had their lawyer call me because I crossed it out, and they're
100%.
like, yeah, then they changed their policy after where you can't do that anymore. They're like, if
Well,
you don't want it, you can't have service here.
and that's where I was going to go, because I
Yep.
guarantee you, and you did it in the classy way. So kudos there. We're friends for a reason. But because I guarantee you, if you had brought that to the front desk, those poor folks would have been like, oh no, because they might not have known it was in there, because again, it's lack of
Yeah.
transparency. When a business, as you know, as the head of your own business, when that transparency permeates at all levels. If you're willing to do XYZ in one instance, then chances are you're willing to skirt the lines or go over them in others.
Right.
And that's, I think, where I go back to those big companies that are pushing the big models and as drivers of their business. We've seen this play before,
Mhm.
where just without AI, certain companies have run rampant with folks' mental health, with using people's data for everything but what they say they're going to use it for. And again, it's why are
Yeah.
we then willingly saying, oh, sure, but this time it'll be different because AI? No, it's just
We
that.
keep giving up all of our privacy. Somebody explained this to me the other day. They're like, if there's AI, some people have Wi-Fi on their fridge, right? And
Mm,
now they're looking at, well, we've got fridges that'll tell you what you need to order because they can see what's in your fridge. Now, I was like, no, I think I'm good making my own grocery list. They're like, yeah, but it's not about the food. Do you know what it's really about? And I went, no, what is it? What is it really about? They're like, the insurance companies said, okay, do explain. Like, because if they can see what you're eating and they determine that it's not healthy, you can get excluded from your policies and they
100%,
can cancel your life insurance policies and charge you
100%.
more for your health insurance policies. Omar, they scan your fridge and all they see in there are bottles of Yoo-Hoo. I don't even know they make Yoo-Hoo anymore, but like
Oh, they
bottles
do.
of, we'll
And
say
it's in
lots
my
of
fridge.
Coca-Cola.
All right.
Okay,
And
there
that's
you
in my
go.
fridge too. So please tell me more
Diet
about.
Coke.
Yes.
Diet Coke, alcohol,
Yes.
eggs, bacon,
Guilty.
and just chocolate bars,
Sure. I
right?
mean, I'm an American, damn it. Like I should be able to,
And oh
but
yeah, and a whole lot of red meat that hasn't
yes,
been USDA processed.
it was on sale. It said,
It was on sale.
it was yellow tagged at my local grocery. Come on
F
now,
off.
right?
Please take. We'll pay you to take it home.
That's
Let
what,
us know how it
listen,
works out for you.
I don't feed the baby. But I'm the Ron Swanson of the house, so I'm fine.
But no, seriously, right? Then they look at it and go, now we know what you eat and you're not healthy and you weigh X amount of pounds and we can see why and you're not doing X, Y, and Z. So we're not going to cover you. And I
Or
went,
even
oh,
at the
good
very
God.
least. Yeah, no, but at the very least, or they can get around it even then saying, well, like, then you lied on the insurance application. Like, that's the
Correct. Oh,
classic
I'm
one. You
healthy.
know
I
this.
walk 3 times a day. I eat a balanced meal and then they can, right. That's right.
Misrepresentation,
That's
and
right.
suddenly you don't have coverage. Yeah.
The thing is, like, I'm not trying to demonize the insurance agency. I mean, but the reality is people need to know what they're getting, right? It's a business and their business is to, in theory, pay out claims, but they only have so much money in reserve to pay out.
Yeah.
And so they have to assess the claims accordingly. And if there's a way to knock you out from coverage, there you go, right? That saves them money on the reserves to keep running for another year. That's
Hmm.
why Florida keeps losing so much property insurance, because when a big hurricane hits, everybody's got to pay out a certain amount and you've got to
Hmm.
fight to get what you need. I did that law for a long time, helping people with their claims on insurance claims. And then magically they all pull out of Florida and then it's quiet for a few years. And then magically they come back and then they have to pay out again and then they
Right.
disappear. And then you only get a couple of options and then your rates go up. It's a cycle, right?
Yep.
But people have to realize that it is a business and it's a business based on, we'll say, facts, or facts that can be shaped to fit specific narratives in the form of your policy and what
Hmm.
your obligations are and what they're willing to pay.
And
So
now
that's a
I
whole
need
nother
no, but
topic.
it
But
is another topic which I'd love. I think we should put that in the bank there, because I think there's, my
Well, we
mind was
can ask.
starting to
If you all
race.
want to hear that kind of
Yeah.
topic, let us know. I mean, if
Let
that's
us know.
something you want to hear more
Absolutely.
about, life of
Yeah.
insurance for your business and for
Sure.
you personally, we can dive into that. I've actually been on both sides of that fence.
Yeah.
I've
But
worked for the
tying
carriers and I've sued them.
But then tying it back to AI, that sort of information, uneven distribution of information, right? And
Hmm.
the folks that have access to more of it have access to more of it and quicker and have access to insights in a faster fashion are the folks that are going to be winning at that game table. Why
Right.
doesn't that sound like something that would be accelerated, that imbalance of information by AI? Of course, they're applying in that context AI
Right.
tools to make sure that they're able to suck in as much information, make as many inferences as possible, and then kind of rig the game in their favor as a capitalist enterprise. Not knocking that, but just like you said, folks have to understand what these tools are for, what they're enabling, what they're accelerating, which might not necessarily be a utopian vision of the future, might just
Right.
be making bad stuff happen faster.
Yeah.
You got to know that
I
too.
mean, think about it. They get all of our medical records. They feed it in there. What are the patterns? What are we seeing? What's going on? Quicker than a human can process, right? And if all of a sudden it's like, oh, Omar and your family, you've all got cancer, you can never, even though you're healthy as all can be, oh,
Yeah.
genetically speaking, you're not getting insurance,
I'm terrified of that because
whether it's life insurance, health insurance,
that's an
long term
actual thing
insurance.
I'm worried about. That is a
Yeah.
legitimate thing I'm worried about, having had cancer as a kid. That's
Yeah.
something that I think of. That's why I don't listen. We're
Oh,
we're
I
we're
can only
coming up on.
imagine
Yeah.
trying to get. Oh, we're way past on time. So let's do this. We'll wrap this one up. And I know, again, if you all want to hear any of these topics in greater depth, put it in the comments below. Send us a message. We would love to explore that with you further. As you can tell, we love to chat. We are chatty Cathy's as it goes, bad humor and all. And as promised, though, I am going to give away a free copy, a digital copy, a personalized electronic copy of
Nice.
AI Security Essentials. It'll teach you all about the NIST AI Risk Management Framework. It'll
Mm.
talk about neural networks, the basics of machine learning, and it's written in a level that even if you are not super techie, you will understand it. If you are super techie, it'll give you that extra level of, oh, this is a new area I need to really be able to ask the questions about. And it should give you that knowledge. I think, Omar, you've read it, right? I think,
Oh, listen,
did you do it in preparation?
the second night when you gave me that advanced copy, I sat down with a nice warm beverage.
Oh, good.
You can tell
That means a
it's
lot because I want to make sure it's useful,
no,
right? I'm not trying to just,
and you can tell, as you said, the tone, it was a dense bit of material. You're not tackling fairy tales here, right? It's something that's a difficult topic, but again, that you can tell that there was hands in it that cared about reaching as many people as possible. So I loved it. It's a great read. So it's great to pick up. It's awesome that you're giving one away.
it's a great Christmas gift. No, I'm just kidding. We all want to read case studies about autonomous vehicles. No,
Listen,
but that being said, so let's do this. If somebody put in the comment, the first one to go ahead and put in the comment something about steps you've taken in
hmm
assessing AI that you have found helpful for your business that you can share with another organization. If you share that kind of tip in our comment, I will make sure to get you a copy of AI Security Essentials, a personalized digital copy. So
awesome,
we will
great.
end that, I think, there.
Think so.
And thank you all for joining us again. We appreciate it. We love seeing the build. There's definitely been a build up on this podcast. We are here with the support of you all. We really want to be a source of knowledge and information. Humans, right? Dealing with human issues, having human conversations about technology, about your businesses, and trying to make the world a better place. So if you are enjoying the content, please share it. Please subscribe, do all the things that help us get seen because we want to be helpful and be part of the solution and not a continuation of the problem. Or problems of the world. It's heavy. We want to help make it a little bit lighter and accessible for everybody. So feel free to do all those things and we will catch you in a couple of weeks. What do you think?
Sounds good. Until then,
All
keep it
right.
cyber metal.